He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora. Nau mai hara mai ki te ao hurahanga. Ko Clack and Callan tēnei. Hello and welcome to Our Changing World. It's Claire here again. I know I said I'd be gone for a while, but I'm delighted to be sharing this bonus episode with you that comes from RNZ's in-depth team. Feral cats are a major problem for our native species in Aotearoa, and they've recently been added to Predator Free 2050's list of target species, with Conservation Minister Tama Potaka describing them as stone-cold killers when he made the announcement. They've been linked to the extinction of several bird species and currently threaten the last 105 pukunui or southern New Zealand dotterel which nest on Stewart Island. RNZ's Farah Hancock has dived into what it takes to tackle the problem of feral cats.
We're in Fiordland National Park on the shores of Lake Manapori. It's jaw-droppingly beautiful. Ducks are gliding on the crystal clear lake, snow-capped mountains tower in the distance, and the forest is a verdant green. Hundreds of thousands of visitors come here every year to enjoy the scenery and wildlife. But there's more than just native species here. A predator has also made Fiordland home. Feral cats.
We've got one. Oh, and it's a thumper. Yeah, I'm not happy. Imagine that latching onto if you're a robin, eh? Okay, so I just want to say I have nothing personal against this animal. He's here because of human ignorance, but we've got to keep in the front of our minds what it takes to feed a cat this size and for it to be in the condition it's in. We're in this beautiful place and this is just an utter killing machine. I hate to think what this cat has slayed to survive, you know. So this guy just has to go. He's just doing what he's got to do, but we've got to do what we've got to do as well. That's it.
That's Victor Tinsdale. He's a hunter and conservationist, and he was shocked when he discovered feral cats in Fiordland earlier this year. He's returned to the same spot, and he's invited RNZ to tag along to see how bad it is. Fiordland is home to kiwi, tomtits, robins, bellbirds and weka. Victor says it's no place for feral cats to be on the loose, killing our precious natives. Nobody knows how many feral cats roam New Zealand, but estimates are in the millions, and they're a major threat to our native species. They've infiltrated almost every landscape, from coasts to farms to national parks like Fiordland, and they've even been recorded crossing the Southern Alps. Feral cats are a tricky predator to tackle. We'll be hearing more from Victor, who is keen for hunters to do their bit, from an island community which drop poison over thousands of hectares, and from a dog handler whose pooch is trained to sniff out cats. And just a warning, we'll be talking about trapping and killing cats and other pest species. And we'll also be talking a bit about poo, because poo is what started Victor's cat trapping quest. When he's out in the bush, he plays Poo's Clues. We join him for a lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're hunting, it's everything's a puzzle, but sort of information that's really helpful is, you know, what's in the area. Like this is a hind dropping seed. They're separate pellets when they're hinds, quite short and stumpy. Yeah, whereas with the stags, they clump together. Pig droppings pretty much look like big truffles, rolled truffles, you know, fibrousy, coconut truffle vibe going on. So if you're going along and you see something on the ground, that looks like a big truffle ball, it'll probably be a pig dropping. And your possums, they're elongated, and usually one end will be flatter, stumpy, and the other end's got a bit of a point. They're longer than the deer poo, and they're usually a bit more of a pale colour, more of a khaki green.
All these poo are very different shape to a cat poo, so a cat poo stands out.
So cat is often like a lot of people have probably seen them around their house if they've got pet cats.
So when Victor saw cat poo in Fiordland while on a hunting trip, he was shocked. Traps were hanging in the Department of Conservation hut he was staying at, so he set one.
Very quickly I caught what I thought was the cat. So I was pretty stoked with myself. I thought I'll set it again just in case. And later that afternoon, I think we were just out here actually, and we heard the trap go and caught another cat. Same thing happened the next day. So I had 4 cats, which I found that was rather alarming. I would not have presumed there was that many cats here.
He wasn't happy at all. Victor grew up loving nature. Seeing the bush under pressure is like seeing a friend dying, he says. He decided to come back and do more trapping.
You know, I couldn't leave the place without trying to help it. I felt drawn back to do that, as well as being drawn back to do hunting and fishing. But I couldn't come down and just do the hunting and fishing and not have a go at trying to remove these nasty predators while I'm here. Otherwise it's just a take equation without giving back, you know.
But he ran into a bit of a roadblock. Technically, he shouldn't have set the traps in the first place. He has a hunting permit, but trapping requires a completely different permit from the Department of Conservation. And there's nothing set up for individuals like him to trap. Doc tells him he has to apply for a commercial possum fur trapping permit in order to catch feral cats. After several emails back and forth and a few months of waiting, he's finally returned with the right paperwork in hand and RNZ in tow. And it doesn't take long for the cats to find his traps. And these aren't skinny cats, they're big.
This is our second SA2 trap we checked today on day 1 together. First SA2 was empty this morning, then we got that big mama in the cage trap, and this is our next trap, so we'll have a look. Oh yeah, we've got a stonker. Oh, wow. That is even bigger than that one this morning. That is in prime nick. It is really shiny. That is a monster. It's a male this time, big female this morning, and I cannot believe what good condition that is. So what that has been living on, I hate to think. Just get him out of there. Hell. Holy moly. The kiwi hasn't got a chance against that. Not a show. No wonder I've never heard a kiwi here in the years I've come here hunting. Never heard one for miles from here. That's why.
Victor's a bit intense about how he traps. Some of the detail we're about to share is not for the faint-hearted. He tries to get as much scent going as possible. He sets the kill traps, like the one he just caught the tomcat in, up a tree, out of the reach of kiwi or weka. Above the trap he nails a disemboweled possum. He baits the trap with his organs, and he puts the stomach contents under the trap. The trap itself he disguises a little, with either moss or a clump of grass. In just a few days of trapping, he catches 5 cats, 2 stoats, 1 ferret, and 18 possums. Even this seasoned hunter is surprised by what he's seen.
Oh, it's been shocking to me, the brutality of the carnivores and what was once an innocent, sweet innocent, you know, basically flightless bird New Zealand. It's just brutal. Stoats burrowing into possums, ferrets burrowing into possums, cats. It's a bloodbath out there.
I've just walked back to the hut, and lying at the hut is a little bit of a display of what we caught. Do you want to describe what you were seeing, Vic?
So closest to us is a very fine example of a large ferret, and then behind that pretty much your standard size house cat you would have, and then so next step up we've got the big female which dwarfs the house cat, you know, your typical cat, and then next one again lying behind her is the biggest cat I've ever seen in my life. Is an absolute stonker of a tomcat. So when we caught that female, that was we found her in the morning, we're like, wow, we've really caught a tigress. You know, she's an example of a really big cat. People are going to be like shocked to see that that's prowling around in Fiordland. Then we got the tom, and that's just next level.
Victor's planning on returning again to do more trapping, but he has a plea. He wants Doc to make it easier for hunters like him to add trapping to their permits. He thinks hunters can help hold the fort against feral cats, reducing the population by a few with each hunting trip. But this approach is unlikely to eradicate cats from areas completely. To see how this might be done, we travel a little further down the country to Stewart Island, Rakiura, where the southern New Zealand dotterel faces extinction. We're meeting Daniel Cocker, a dock ranger who is also known as Dotterel Dan. He's been deep in the bush for 5 nights trapping cats near a dotterel breeding site. Stewart Island is rugged and only has 27 kilometres of road. The easiest way to reach the nesting site is by boat. In the 5 days he's been bush, he's caught a cat. And not surprisingly, Pooh was involved.
So this was a small female I got yesterday.
Yep.
So it was in a section of the bush where we actually hadn't had too many traps, and I stumbled across maybe like 7 or 8 cat scats, and there were probably a good three of them were pretty fresh. So I moved a few traps over there and managed to get it. So yeah, I was pretty happy to get that, but there's definitely still a few more out here. Like we've taken probably 20 or 30 just out of this area in the last year, and they just reinvade so quickly,
So how many days? You've been here 5 nights.
Yeah.
So you're trapping the whole time, and what night trapping did you catch that?
Actually on my first night of setting that trap in that area, so yeah, it doesn't always happen that way. You can quite often be in the area trapping for ages and not have any luck, so yeah, it's quite hit and miss. And one of the struggles with feral cat trapping out here is there's just so many rats as well, and the rats take our bait before the cats even get a chance to go near the trap a lot of the time, so makes it pretty tricky.
We'll come back to rats in a moment. But first, let's find out a little bit more about the dotterel Daniel is trying to save from extinction. He takes us to shell-covered mudflats, where the birds feed.
Yeah, so we've got about 7 or 8 pukunui right in front of us. I've spotted a few males as well. So the males are pretty rare. There's only about between 26 and 30 adult males left. So yeah, they're pretty rare. So yeah, we'll move in a bit closer and see if we can get some better views.
This is the only place these birds breed, and there are only 105 of them left.
The key threat to these birds is feral cats, which are unfortunately widespread throughout Rakiura, from the coast all the way up to the mountaintops. And so, yeah, these birds are particularly vulnerable to them when it comes to the breeding season, when they're guarding their nests. So pukunui, they're very, what's the word? I guess they're really brave when it comes to nesting. They'll protect the nest with their life, and yeah, ultimately when a feral cat shows up, that costs them their life, and yeah, it means that we're losing not only adults, but we're also losing eggs and chicks to the feral cats as well. On average, we believe a New Zealand dotterel should live to be 20 to 30 years old. However, on average, our birds are not living more than 3 or 4 years as a result of feral cat predation.
Saving the birds is personal for Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to me this isn't a job, you know, like it's a passion project for me, and yeah, I really care about these birds. And so yeah, every time you find a dead dotterel or a nest that's failed, you know, that is something that keeps me up at night. I want to protect these birds and make sure that they're surviving. And so yeah, it is really heartbreaking when you put so much work into it.
Unlike northern dotterel, which nest on beaches, their southern counterparts choose the most inhospitable places imaginable. Mountaintops, some with winds so fierce it's hard to stand upright. Daniel and the other rangers have trapped and dispatched more than 100 cats over the years. But with the dotterel population in desperate need of a good breeding season, a new approach is taken. Tons of 1080 poison was dropped over 40,000 hectares, covering most of the dotterel's breeding areas. It's an attempt at what's known as secondary poisoning, and this is where those rats Daniel mentioned earlier are important. Despite lots of feral cats, Stewart Island is crawling with rats. Cats don't eat the cereal baits which contain 1080, but rats do, and cats eat and scavenge the rats. So the plan was for the cats to eat the poisoned rats and die. Daniel says he's seen a difference.
Coming from my previous trip where I was on one of the hills near the Tin Range, where the 1080 had been dropped, we were catching nothing in our traps, which is the first time ever in 3 years that not only catching nothing, but you're also getting no bait take, which is great. Usually, majority of our cat traps, the bait is taken within a day by rats because there are just so many rats everywhere.
Data backs this up. In the 6 weeks after 1080 has been dropped, trail cameras pick up no cats. But this approach of using 1080 over a massive area hasn't been smooth sailing. When RNZ visits Stewart Island, we find protest signs everywhere.
You only got to drive around the roads to see how many signs there are and how many houses that are against it. It's been a big split in the community.
We're at the only pub on Stewart Island talking to Gordon Lesk, who is commonly known as Fluff. He believes about half of Stewart Island's 400 residents are against 1080. And with such a tiny population, being at odds with the people you see regularly isn't ideal.
It is awkward. It is very awkward, yes.
Fluff runs fishing charters on the island and says it's affected his business. He's not the only person who's unhappy. Farah Ahmed runs nature tours and is probably the most outspoken critic of the poison.
I believe that it's completely indiscriminate. 1080 will harm everything that breathes oxygen, from the microbes in the soil to the fish, the eels, the insect life, the birds, the reptiles, anything out there that breathes air is impacted. Do you really want to swim in the sea where 1080 is discharging into the waterway?
Her concerns about 1080 are not shared by many experts, nor by Doc, who point to years of research to respond to each point. And in an independent inquiry in 2011, the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment concluded the use of 1080 should continue and even increase. Darius Fagan from predator-free Rakiura has been trying to address local concerns.
The sea is 100% safe to swim in, 100% safe to fish in.
He's taken groups of those for and against the poison on walks after the 1080 was dropped.
We did things like we stopped and did 5-minute bird counts. And we heard all of the species that you would expect to hear on Rakiura. We heard kakariki, we heard kaka, and we saw lots of fresh kiwi sign on the ground. We heard tui, we heard liroliro, we heard everything you would expect to be there was still there. We saw bait, and we stopped and we drank from the streams and just observed the forest as it was.
He hoped hearing each other's perspectives would help each side of the debate understand the other better. But does he think he's helped sway views?
I don't know if it's a realistic expectation to sway people. But what I think we can do is show people what actually happens, to give people the information to make up their own mind. Some people might never be okay with toxin being used in the environment, but they might be able to come to a place to accept it if they know the things that they care about remain.
Initial signs are hopeful for the dotterel. 5 eggs hatch and it's hoped another 35 are on their way. Darius knows cats will reinvade the areas where the 1080 was dropped. But the data gained from this trial will help them next time to know how to keep cats away from the breeding sites for longer. One day they might get to a point where the dotterel population isn't clinging to survival, but they'll need to remain vigilant, and the trail cameras and detection work will have to continue. An expert at detection is dog handler and trapper Brad Windust. Wero, his German short-haired pointer, is certified by DOC to sniff out something special. And we're back to poo. When Wero smells cat poo and lies down with his nose pointing at it, Brad rewards him by throwing a ball.
Like wherever we go, he finds cat scat. It doesn't matter whether it's in the middle of the cities, mountaintops, the coastline, sub-Antarctics, Chatham Islands, Rakiura, Stewart Island, absolutely cat shit everywhere.
Most of Brad's work is on pest-free islands and sanctuaries, checking to ensure there are no cats present. And with a dog which is trained to smell out poo, Brad is a bit of a poo expert too. We get another lesson in the field with Brad and Wero.
Yeah, they go everywhere, but they mark their presence. They communicate with each other using their scat, and they often do that on ridges. So that's one place I always try and go straight for and check all the ridges.
So I was sort of like tomcats marking their territory with pee. Do they do it with poo as well?
Yeah, so wild cats, they hardly ever bury their scat. They just leave it right out in the open in the middle of the track. Often people see it and they just think it's a dog poop, but it's not. And that's how they communicate with each other, because a lot of their territories overlap, and they also want to tell each other their sexual maturity and if they're on heat.
Right. So it's really a calling card.
Yeah, and it's a great way to detect them in these places they're not meant to be.
When Wero smells poo, Brad tries to figure out the best place to set a trap and catch the cat. Wero doesn't chase or attack cats. Brad understands people love cats, but he wants them to remember a feral cat's life isn't easy.
It's not a good existence for cats out in the wild. They don't live a happy, good life. When they get hurt in fights, they can't go to the vet. All the cats on the Auckland Islands had no bottom teeth from ripping limpets off the rocks to eat those. So I just think that, everyone needs to at first realise how big the problem is, acknowledge it, and then get trapping.
And he has a message for feral cat haters too.
I totally understand your frustration, but they are a beautiful animal in their own right. They didn't ask for this, and we should always dispatch them humanely.
Brad is keen for more rules to be introduced for pet cats. He would like them to be microchipped, desexed, and contained to their properties. And with feral cats now included in Predator-Free 2050's list of target species, it's likely that conversations about responsible cat ownership will increase. We've got another 25 years until 2050, when it's hoped feral cats will be eradicated. So people like Victor, the rangers on Stewart Island, and Brad will be kept busy trying to make sure that happens. But there doesn't seem to be any lack of passion. I put it to Brad that as far as jobs go, getting to wander around the bush with his dog is a pretty sweet gig.
Yep, I've got the best job in the world. Definitely, I just love it. I get to go to the most incredible places, from Fiordland to Cape Reinga right up the top, working with my best mate and helping nature. So yeah, I love it.
Thanks, Farah. This episode was reported by Farah Hancock and was produced by Miranda Fisher. Sound engineering was by Ben Pearce and Jeremy Ansell. You can learn more, read all the articles that Farah has put together, and see some photos at rnz.co.nz/feral. Tēnā koe uwhakarongo mai. Thanks for listening. I'm Claire Kincannon. Mā te wā.